Well guys, it looks like this Switch 2 is running into some more bad news as we go throughout the holiday. And I say more bad news because if you haven't seen my video about a month ago, we talked about how Nintendo had some pretty bad sales to report for the month of November, where the Switch 2 did not sell that well. In fact, the entire hardware industry was down significantly in November, and it was one of the worst hardware sales since 1995 in the entire industry, which was crazy. But the Switch 2 was selling worse than the 5-plus-year-old PS5 for the month of November. And for Nintendo specifically, the combined unit sales of the Switch 1 and the Switch 2 were down over 10% from Switch sales last year, despite the Switch 2 literally launching a couple of months ago. Well, it looks like through December, things didn't get much better, because Christopher Dring from the Game Business actually reported on December sales not being that strong for Nintendo once again, particularly in the Western markets, which is here in the US. During the holiday season, Switch 2 sales were down 35% compared to what the Switch 1 delivered during the same period in 2017 when it launched. Now, some areas weren't anywhere near as bad, like the UK was only down 16%, but for Japan, Switch 2 sales were actually up 11%. Which was pretty good for them, obviously. Now, they did discuss this with a senior Nintendo employee that apparently contributed this to a complicated economic landscape. Obviously, the Switch 2 is a lot cheaper right now, technically in Japan, than it is here in the States because of the inflation that's going on here and just the horrible economy. It's really bad right now. But he also blamed the lack of a big Western game, which is interesting that someone at Nintendo would even admit this. Man, I got a lot to say because I feel like I've been saying certain things for a while now and I've been getting a lot of heat from people online, like a lot of heat, and I definitely want to clear the air again on some things. But first off, I want to start off by saying this. Yes, it seems like it is just incredibly tough right now here in the States. It's really hard to afford anything. Right now, the economy is so messed up. It's costing like an arm and a leg just to go pick up some milk or some groceries at the store. It's just really bad. So it's not a great time to go out and buy a $450 console right now, even though it's Christmas season. But with that said, I'm somebody that's normally tapped into a lot of my friends and what they're buying and a lot of the kind of market trends and the different social medias. And I've seen a lot of people buying their kids and stuff PS5s throughout this holiday. In fact, lots of my own family members have even went out and bought PS5s instead of the Switch 2. I even seen memes on TikTok that were trending with over millions of views and likes of people tricking their kids by hiding a Switch 2 box inside of a PS5 box. And a lot of the comments saying, I couldn't imagine this happening to me. Like, getting a Switch 2 over a PS5 is just a cruel joke. And it was just comments like this on and on and on. And yes, we can make the jokes of, what are you going to play on a PS5? Like, there's no games. You guys don't have games. But as a huge Nintendo fan, I'm starting to get to the point where, can we even say that? The Switch 2 came out the gate firing pretty hard, and they came out with Mario Kart World and literally the next month a brand new 3D Donkey Kong game. Now, I will say, as much as 3D Donkey Kong deserves all the praise, not too many people are going to care about a 3D Donkey Kong game. You know what I mean? Think of yourself as a casual person that just plays, the big games. You buy a $450 console. Are you going to care too much about a Donkey Kong game compared to a 3D Mario, a Zelda, a Smash Brothers, Mario Kart? No. So I'd say most people probably bought in right away to play Mario Kart World. That is without a doubt the game that they chose. Now, a lot of people have been very sour on Mario Kart World and said it's just an average experience. It's held back by a lot of problems and it's plagued by a lot of just stupid design choices like intermission tracks and stuff. But regardless, it was pretty safe to say that Nintendo was getting all of their money from Mario Kart World out the gate. I mean, that initial Switch 2 sales were immaculate. People were all buying into the console because we were all desperately looking forward to this thing for the last 2 years, man. From all the rumors and leaks, we were ready for this thing. So we all bought into this thing, it seems like. And that was the fear that immediately struck me, was maybe all the fans bought into this thing so quickly, but will it have legs from the non-fans, from the general consumers, from people that just want to pick up this new console and play the new 3D Mario or Zelda or Smash Brothers or Animal Crossing? And the senior employee at Nintendo apparently stated that this was also due to the lack of a Western game, a big Western game in that matter, which was also very strange to me. Is Mario Kart World and a 3D Donkey Kong game not something that would appeal to a Western audience? A 3D platformer and a Mario Kart racer? I feel like that should have resonated with a lot of fans, and it just clearly didn't. But we're talking about the holiday season. I don't think this is where the problem is arising. The problem was the games that came out in the holiday season, because a lot of people love to say how many games we have on our Switch 2, but how many of those games are really that important or interesting, or something that makes people want to go get in their car and spend $450 on a new console? A new Hyrule Warriors game, which is the third one that we've gotten, and technically the fourth game in the same Breath of the Wild world. A Kirby Air Riders game, which is just another racing game, which you have Mario Kart. I don't see why too many people would want to go out and buy Kirby Air Riders. I still feel like that game should have been saved for 2026. And then Metroid Prime 4, which the only one buying that game is Metroid Prime diehard fans, it seems like. And I knew this from the very first Direct, that people would call me out for being spoiled and complaining and whining when we had all those goodies revealed. But from the very beginning, I noticed this just didn't seem right. There didn't seem to be any massive games for the holiday. Right after Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza, it seemed like the Switch 2 was just empty, with a bunch of smaller things, spin-offs and remasters, tons of Switch 2 editions, and third-party games that have already come out years ago that most people probably already played or rather play on a stronger piece of hardware like a PS5. And it's funny that Nintendo themselves admits that it's probably because of the lack of a big Western game, and you look at their lineup for 2026, it's pretty bad. I mean, the only games that you really have to look forward to as bigger titles is Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave and Splatoon Raiders, and both of those are going to appeal way more to Japan than the West. Splatoon Raiders might pull the West a lot more. The West is growing with the Splatoon franchise a lot more, but most of those sales are coming from Japan. Japan is absolutely bat crazy for Splatoon anything. And Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave is definitely going to do better in Japan than it is here in the States. So what in the world are they doing? They didn't announce a singular massive game to look forward to in that last Direct, and it definitely shows. I mean, as you can see, people are slowly getting tired of the Switch 2. The sales are dropping. People that really wanted the console out the gate have gotten their console, and I'm sure a lot of people that own Switch 2s are enjoying the games that are coming out. But for people that didn't want to dip into the Switch 2 already, they're not going to have any reason whatsoever to dive into this console next year, unless Nintendo comes out in this Nintendo Direct coming up in the next month or so. They got to come off firing on all cylinders. I mean, seriously, they got to give people reasons to go out and buy a Switch 2, reasons to spend money on a new bundle with a new big game in it as well. You look at 2017, dude, everybody in the world wanted to go out and buy the first open world Zelda game. Like, are you kidding me? Everybody wanted to go out and play a 3D Mario game where you can turn into the enemies of the franchise. They constantly kept hype moving. Yes, they announced Tears of the Kingdom a little early. I mean, just a couple years after Breath of the Wild, but it got people excited for the next 3D Zelda game. It's going to be on the same console. I mean, they got people excited for Smash Brothers just about a year after the console came out. If your big games are still a ways away, at least show something about them. Acknowledge that a 3D Mario is coming. I mean, the fact that this October is pushing 9 years since a 3D Mario, and it's so bad now, fans are actively talking themselves out of this thing, and I'm included. I'm over here thinking, we're probably not even going to see this thing this year because Nintendo is just so strange with this game. And the same thing goes for something like a 3D Zelda game. We know we're going to be a ways away from that next one because they decided to have Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom on Switch 1. And then you look at things like Animal Crossing is pretty much out of the question since they have DLC coming for Animal Crossing New Horizons in January. So there's not too much left on the plate besides like a Luigi's Mansion potentially. Obviously, Pokemon Gen 10 is going to be huge, which seems like it is coming at the end of 2026 this year, but still, like, there needs to be more. We need to get those Smash reveals, that type of hype back into Nintendo again. Nintendo needs to start jumping on the train of getting some of these bigger, huge games announced a little early, so that way we can have that, you know, speculation and that hype behind it. I've watched over 20 or 30 2026 expectation videos and prediction videos of people talking about what they want to see from Nintendo this year and what they expect to see from Nintendo this year. And I couldn't believe how many of them are just defeated. It almost seems like they're just like, you know what, it's just going to be a get by year. Look at what's coming out. I don't expect Nintendo to do much more. It's just sad. Like, we don't even have that hype anymore. Like, people are giving up on predicting a 3D Mario or predicting something like, you know, out of left field Star Fox game or Smash Brothers or anything like that because Nintendo's just so safe and boring now with their game reveals. It's just like, of course we're getting another Mario Tennis. Why wouldn't we be getting another Fire Emblem? You know what I mean? It just doesn't feel like we're in this new generation yet. Nintendo needs to show off these big games, these big IPs that they've been working on for so long. The fact that it takes almost a decade for a new 3D Mario is just not okay. And it's frustrating because we hear all the rumors that Nintendo delayed this thing to be ready for these big games and stuff. Like, they wanted to make sure the games were ready and stuff. And just like, what have they been doing this whole time? What have they been working on? Is it true that Donkey Kong Bonanza was just this replacement in Nintendo's eyes for a 3D Mario? Why? Why was that the decision that they decided to make? Why not focus on 3D Mario and then have 3D Donkey Kong maybe the year after or something? Like, switch spots. After the last two directs, I find it really hard to even be excited for the next one. I'm like a 5 out of 10 excited for it. So like, when it comes, but like, I'm not expecting anything super either. Like, Nintendo's kind of sidelined my hype because they let me down 2 times in a row. You know, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I'm not going to get fooled a third time. Nintendo just seems so over-reliant on making sure there's something to play every month, and I get a lot of people like that, but personally, I've always felt like less is more. Giving us more huge titles and months in between those titles in order to let us enjoy those games, soak them in, and get ready for the next one was always something I enjoyed, but just making sure you have anything every month just so you can say you have something to play just feels like they're over-flooding the release schedule with stuff that no one cares about. There's so many Switch 2 editions, so many remakes, remasters, ports, old games coming back. I just don't care, you know what I mean? I'd rather just sit and wait patiently for the next big game if they had 2 or 3 massive titles to dish out in the year. I think I'd take that over 6 or 7 small games that end up getting 7 out of 10s on Metacritic. And like I said before, a lot of these diehard Nintendo fans are somehow just like backing Nintendo up on this, and that's what's just so strange to me. Like, we live in this day and age where we're just okay. Like, the bar is so low, we're fine with there not being like big games. We're fine with all these small spin-offs and stuff, which just shouldn't be the case. Like, the fact that I simply made a video a couple months ago titled Nintendo really needs a big game right now, it got one of my biggest dislikes of all time, as if I said something crazy. This is the era where Nintendo haters are rising and we're getting nothing but Nintendo hate videos after hate videos over and over and over again. And what could fix something like that? A really big, exciting new game that everyone loves. Something that they have no choice but to say, yeah, that's a really good game. And for some reason, you say something like that in this day and age, you get blasted online and you're seen as a hater and you don't know what you're talking about. But clearly, I was onto something, because if you look at Nintendo's sales, they are definitely not going as well as Nintendo expected, especially for the first 6 months of the console and its first holiday season. It should be doing a lot better. But it's simple. Nintendo, this next Nintendo Direct, announce big games. Have big things to look forward to for the summer, for the holiday season. Even if it's a small glimpse, a small trailer for something in October or November, show us. Give us something to look forward to. Give us something to talk about online so you can get the word of mouth around. I'm probably going to make an entire video just on this Direct topic alone, because this next Direct is a very, very big deal for Nintendo now, especially since their holiday season seemed to be a lot more lackluster than they thought. They need to start getting these game reveals out, so hopefully this upcoming Nintendo Direct is a pretty big one. I think one of my biggest problems also with the Directs is, you know, you're only getting like 2 big reveals, if that, at the beginning and the end, where everything else is just filler and small information on stuff that we already know. That's why I think Nintendo Directs almost just annoy me to this point where, like, yeah, I'm watching this show for 2 big things and 2 big things only, where everything else is just going to be third-party information and just, you know, stupid farming simulators and games that we don't care about. But that's also for a video for another time. But yeah, let me know in the comments down below what you think about this. Am I looking too far into this? I don't think I am anymore when you look at these sales. And what do you think about this? I love Nintendo. I just think sometimes we need to put our Nintendo bias to the side and look at things through the lens of a general consumer, of somebody with children and mouths to feed and a family that they had to take care of and provide for. Spending $450 is no easy task. That is a lot of money for any family out there, unless you're just balling big time. So spending $450 on a new console, I mean, geez, you're going to have a pretty good reason in order to do so. And right now, that pretty good reason doesn't seem to be there for a lot of us. But thank you for tuning in. I hope you all have a blessed day, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya, guys.